Hello, we're here again. This is lecture number 9, isn't it? Okay. All right, we're going to go over that very important homework that you did. But let's do a few housekeeping things first, okay? First of all, we have this lecture, which is lecture number 9. The next lecture, lecture number 10. And after that, the test. You'll be ready to take the test, hopefully, okay? So we have this lecture, next lecture, and then the test over chapters 1 and 2. Now, I've already communicated to you guys when the test is. For you folks at home, and I said this earlier as well, in your syllabus is the due dates that you need to take your test by, okay? Now, that's not the date you have to take the test on. You have to take the test by that date. And I usually give you like a 7-day window. You can take it earlier than that date by about 7 days if you want. But you have to have the test done by that date. Every semester what happens is this. I give that week window, that 1 week window, and somebody waits until the very last day that they're able to take that test, and then something comes up. Work crisis or a kid is sick or something, and then they send me this email, oh, please, 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 give me another day, please, please. You have a week-long window to take it, okay? If you don't take that test by that day, and you have to take it the next day, it's 15 points extra off your test for each day late that you take it. So it doesn't take long to figure out that before long you just might as well not even take it, okay? So if you wait till the very last day and don't give yourself any margin, you could get yourself in trouble. And I always encourage you to look on the JCCC website in the search box, put testing center hours and see what their hours are, okay? Remember, if they close at 8 p.m. on a certain night, you can't show up at 7:45 and expect to get that test taken, okay? It's not like a restaurant. They don't let you stay there until you're done with your meal. If they say they close at 8 they're scooting people out. So please be responsible for that, folks at home. I want to talk to you about how do you study for a test of mine, okay? How do you study for a Dave Krug test, okay? The very, very, very best way to study for my test, and if you can only do one way, do this way, is this. Redo the homework, okay? Get a blank piece of paper out and redo the homework. Now, I'm not saying look over the homework, okay? One gives himself a false sense of security when they just look over the homework and they go, I think I know what he's doing here. Yeah, this looks pretty good. That's a lot different from having a blank piece of paper staring you in the face and you have to produce the answer, isn't it? Okay? So redo the homework. Don't be lazy and just look over it, okay? For the students who fail my test, I guarantee you I could have just photocopied homework questions that they've already done. They've already seen these questions. They've already seen the answers. I could have just photocopied those and given them to them, and they would have had the same bad test results, okay? If you can't do the homework with a blank piece of paper, you can't do the test. If you can do the homework with a blank piece of paper, you're probably in pretty good shape. But I'm always surprised. There's always some students who they're like, well, I can't do the homework. I don't really know what he's doing, but maybe things will go okay on the test. Maybe God will whisper answers in my ear. He's not going to. He told me this morning to let you all know. He's not going to whisper answers in your ear. You have to know how to do it. Okay? Kara?
The practice test that you have?
Yes. I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Okay? So the first way is to redo the homework. The second way, as Kara said, is on Angel, if you go to the Lessons tab, where I keep most of my stuff, there's practice test, isn't there? There's not only a practice test, there's practice test answers, isn't there? And that's kind of nice. It gives you a breakdown between multiple choice and problems, and that's how my tests are, between multiple choice and problems. And it gives you some practice on multiple choice, doesn't it? So did you see, Kara, that I also had the answers out there too? Okay.
I didn't print
Okay. Yeah. So try to do that test. Try to do that test. All right? But that practice test is the second great way to study for my test. And it's out there on Angel under the Lessons tab. I have one for each section that will do. All right? Okay. A couple other tools that you can utilize in studying for my test. Get out your textbook and turn to, for example, turn to page 76 in your book. Page 76 in your book, okay? Now, you can't read this, but I just kind of want to show you what to look at in your own book. Here's some more multiple choice you can do, right? For your, to study for your tests. They give you at the end of each chapter about 5 or 6 multiple choice, and then they tell you the answers are on, in this case, page 91, okay? Answers on page 91. So do that little multiple choice quiz they give you at the end of the chapter. That's a nice thing that they've added to this book. Okay? So that's a third great way to study for the test. A fourth great way to study for the test is take a look back at page 70, for example. On page 70 at the bottom is a demonstration problem. And they give you a homework problem, and then they tell you what they want on the next page, what they want you to do, and then you can do that, but they give you the solution. So you can see if you did it right, and it kind of even explains how they got the answer. Okay? So each chapter usually gives like 1 or 2 demonstration problems. All right? Make sense? Okay? So that's another great way to study for the exam. Okay? The fifth great way to study for the exam is if you look at the front of your book. Let me make sure yours has a different cover. So let me see where your URL is. Where is your URL? It should give that to you. The cover of your book is a little different. If you have the cover of my book, that is the web page. So I'll just blow it up if you want to copy that down real quick. Let me look in your book real quick to see if I can find where it is. Okay, I'll give you, here it is. You don't need to copy it down. Look on page 29. Page 29 in your book, for example. Okay? There it is right there. It's on that multiple choice quiz that I just showed you. Every one of those. Okay? Now, if you go out to that website for the book, there is a ton of things, a ton of tools and resources that you can utilize. Okay? Now, I will tell you, that's probably the most robust tool that's out there, and it's probably the most seldom used, okay? And I like to list that as the last way to study for my test because personally, I don't think you have to do that. I think there's enough things that what I've given you, practice tests and, you know, the multiple choice quiz at the end of the chapter, the demonstration problem, redoing the homework, that I don't want you to go out there and see that big robust website and just get lost in all the little bells and whistles of it. Does that make sense? Okay, but it is out there. Okay? I think you also remember last time Sarah was saying that we walked through that, what the Connect looks like, those walkthrough exercises with the dumbbell on the side. So that's something else you could utilize if you want. I don't think there's any shortage of resources for you to utilize as you study for these tests. There's certainly a lot more than when I was in school, okay? All right? But I want you to start getting ready for that test, okay? Cool? All right. Remember, you folks at home, know when you need to take your test by every time. Allow yourself some margin. All right? Okay, any questions on any of that? No? Okay, I think one of the principles that I've been trying to hammer home over and over is this right here. Let me back it up a little bit. Whoa, wrong way. We talked about how this is making a journal entry. This is making a journal entry, and this is posting to the T accounts, right? When I ask you to do a journal entry, don't give me a lot of T accounts. But one of the things I wanted you to do was I gave you this assignment that looks like this. Let me put it down here. Correct? Did I give that to you?
Yep.
Okay. What I wanted you to do was to figure out the ending balance of each one of those T accounts. Okay? Now, I just put some sample T accounts here. And these are different postings. These originated from different entries, right, that they made. And now I just want you to put the ending balance here. Okay? So for cash, that would be, is that 310? Okay, 310 is the ending balance of cash, okay? Now make sure that there should only be one number written here. Don't add up 420 and then add up 110 and have two numbers here. Don't do that. It should only have one number here, okay? And it should be on whichever one is larger. So in this case, 420 minus 110 equals 310. Okay? Now if it's a credit balance account, we start with the credit side. 8,000 minus 4,500 is what? 3,500? Okay? So there's the answer to the top two. All right. This is cash. That's 11,100. Oh, help me out. It's too early in the morning. What's the answer to that?
7,300.
7,300? 7,300. Do we all concur with that answer? Okay. 7,300. Okay. All right. Here they have an accounts receivable. It looks like what we probably debited at 600 when the accounts receivable was created, and we're decreasing it or crediting it as the customer makes payments to us, right? So they made a 150 payment, a 150 payment, a 150 payment, and a 100 payment to us. So at this point, what's the balance of this account? Okay, they still owe us $50, right? Cool? Okay. All right. Here, the last couple, wages payable, we credited it for 700, we debited it for 700. What's the balance? 0. Okay, we've satisfied that.
How do you choose which side the 0 goes on, or does it matter?
Good question. Kara asked, how do you choose which side in this case? I always put the 0 on whatever the normal balance is. Side. Wages payable is normally a credit balance account, so I put it on the credit side. Great question. Okay? All right, now we got kind of a weird guy over here. Okay? Kind of a weird guy over here. Cash. Now, is cash a debit or a credit balance account?
Debit.
It's a debit balance account. Okay? When we figure out the balance of this account, what is the balance?
-200.
How much?
-200.
I can't hear you.
Minus 200.
Okay. This is a situation where this person is overdrawn. It's actually minus 200, isn't it? Now, let me show you a wrong way to do this. This is wrong. Don't put minus 200 here. No. Don't do that, okay? You'll never and should never see a plus or minus sign in here. The way that this looks is right here. There's no other way for that to look except for that. Okay? Now, cash is a normal debit balance account, right? So this This is what we call an account with an abnormal balance, or it's out of balance, okay? But have you ever been overdrawn in your cash account? Have your parents? Right? Ask them, I bet they have, right? I have been before. This person has spent more money than what they had in their account. So they actually, if they looked at their checking account balance online or at the statement, it would say you are overdrawn 200 or you have minus 200. But we don't put a minus sign here. We put a 200 on the credit side. Now with our knowledge of cash being a debit balance account, a $200 amount being on the credit side is all we need to know that that has an abnormal balance. You with me? And the way that that would look, let's say we were doing a trial balance. Let's say we were doing a trial balance and we had cash listed over here, and then we had a debit column and we had a credit column, right? The way that that would look is to have 200 written in the credit column, right? Make sense? Okay. Remember, with a T account and with a trial balance, there's never minus signs. Never, ever, ever. Okay? Cool? All right. And remember, this is what we're doing. This is posting to the T account. This is not making a journal entry. It's posting to the T account. But we figure out these ending balances so that we can prepare the trial balance, right? And then after we prepare the trial balance, we prepare the 4 financial statements. Correct? Okay. So I want you to be able to do that. Is there any questions on that? Any questions? Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead then and take a look at exercise 2.9, exercise 2.10. These are good ones. So take a look there. All right. What they want us to do is they want us to prepare journal entries for each one of these transactions, right? Then they want us to open the T accounts, and they want us to post those. And I talked about how we do that line by line, right? Then they want us to figure out the ending balance of those T accounts, much like we just did on that handout. And then they want us to prepare a trial balance. Cool? Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right. Not going to read through each transaction. I'm going to put the answers up. Now, hopefully you are pretty adept at doing these by now. If you're just totally missing these and totally lost, then you are behind and you are not going to do well on the test at all, okay? So I want you to start assessing if you know what you're doing by how well you're doing on these homework problems. That's why we do them. I can't show you all of them right now, but let me show you A through F. Just take a minute there to look through them, and then we'll talk about those in a second. Yeah, good question. Cassie asked if it's okay to put on D, if the account you credited was revenue instead of fees earned, that's fine. Fees earned is just another way to say revenue. You also do not have to do those little descriptions and italics at the bottom. Also, your capital accounts, such as in transaction A, I usually say capital, comma, M. Dexter. Or just put capital. Okay? Owner's capital is fine too. But I wouldn't say equity. I wouldn't say owner's equity. Okay? It is an equity account, but we want to be more specific. Kara.
On F, can you put unearned revenue since it wasn't paid straight to them yet? They hadn't done the service, I think it was.
On F as in Frank?
Yeah.
No. Let's take a look at that. The customer billed a customer $2,700 as fees for services provided. They have provided those services. So it is not unearned. Remember the revenue recognition principle?
Yeah.
We recognize revenue when it is earned. When is it earned? When they paid? No. When the product or service has been provided. And in this case, the service has been provided, hasn't it? So crediting an unearned fee, an unearned revenue account in transaction F would be wrong. This needs to be a revenue account. Does that make sense? Good questions. I love when you ask questions, because these are probably questions people at home would have as well. Okay? Notice how in each situation the debits equal the credits. If they don't, then you're messed up, right? Also make sure you're not, sometimes students will make the mistake of like writing sentences in their journal entries. Like they'll say cash invested, or cash received, or cash payment. No, it's just cash, 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 okay? Also, make sure that you leave a little space or draw a line in between your journal entries, or it's very hard. And make sure on the test that you put these letters, A, B, C, D, E, and F, so I know which journal entry you're on, okay? It's very hard to grade them if students just give me that. Okay? So please always either put the date or the letter, okay, on the test. All right, any other questions on A through F? If not, let's look through the rest of them. I was the last one, I believe. So take a look at those real quick, and we'll talk about them in a second here. Okay, do the debits equal the credits for each of those? Yeah, they do. Did they prepare them right? Did they list the accounts being debited first? And then the accounts being credited next? And then did they indent? They indented all their credits, didn't they? That's the way you want to do it. All right. Any questions on D through I? Okay. I promise you on the test you will have one that looks like this. Okay? I guarantee you have to do journal entries. Okay? Now the next thing they want you to do is post them to the T accounts, correct? Or to the ledger. So let's see what that looks like. Might be kind of hard to see. Let me back up a little. Now, they went ahead and posted the letters. You don't necessarily need to write the letters there. Okay? I'm going to highlight what the ending balance is for each one of these situations. Okay? Thank you. Okay? So now I have all the ending balances. And they just figured out those ending balances just like we were doing on that handout, correct? Okay? So is that what you got for the ending balances, all your accounts? Yep. If so, that's great. Now, what's the last thing they ask us to do after we do the posting to the T accounts? To do a trial balance. And we just go through these accounts and take the balances and prepare a trial balance. Okay? So I can probably zoom in on that a little bit. Of course, one of the key things, there's no plus or minus signs. If it has a debit balance, it's in the debit column. If it has a credit balance, it's in the credit column. And by golly, that total debits column has to equal the total credits column, or you made a mistake, right?
So if the balance is 0, do we still need to list that on here?
Good question. What Cassie asked is on accounts payable, the balance is 0. Do we have to list it? You know, I would say you don't have to. However, I would. And here's why I would. Let's say you did not list accounts payable because it has a 0 balance. Well, it still would balance. Well, what I might think as a reader or as even the preparer is I might think, now wait a minute. I know we had accounts payable transactions. Did I mess it up? Did I forget to put it on the trial balance? You see what I'm saying? But if I say accounts payable, credit balance is 0, then I know that that account has been considered. It just happened to have a 0 balance. So I would go ahead and list it. I wouldn't take off if you didn't, but I'd go ahead and list it. Okay? Remember that trial balance. Let's look at it again. That trial balance is not one of the 4 financial statements, but it's used to help us prepare those 4 financial statements. And remember, we list the assets first, then the liabilities, then the equity, then the revenues, then the expenses. This is kind of a simplified example, isn't it? Yeah, Sarah.
I don't know why I did this. I didn't go in order from the T accounts, but I wrote my withdrawals first and then the capital.
That's fine.
With that. Okay.
That's fine. Okay, cool.
Okay, when you list the assets first, say like on cash it was overdrawn, so it was negative 200, would you list it over in the credit column?
Yes, like remember that
Yeah.
when we were talking about when cash was overdrawn, when it had an abnormal credit balance? Yes, in that case, what that would look like is it would look like that.
And you just add it in there.
Okay. And it would just be added with the other credits. Not be any minus sign or anything in there. It would just have its balance right there. Okay? Are there other balances that can have an abnormal balance besides cash? Well, they all can, but are there any that commonly could? Yeah, there really are. Let's say I had an accounts receivable from Jake of $1,200, right? So I've debited accounts receivable for $1,200. And then let's say you pay me and you accidentally pay me too much. You pay me $1,300. Well, do you see where I would have a credit balance in my receivable because you overpaid me? Okay? And so then I'd eventually refund that to you. But I would have, for a while there, I would have a abnormal credit balance in a receivable account. That same situation could happen on a payable if I overpaid one of my payables. No, you would just leave it as an abnormal balance in your accounts payable, and then you'd probably get a refund back and just take care of it that way. Okay? Does that make sense? Are we starting to feel better? You've learned a lot, haven't you, in 8 lectures, hopefully. Okay? You've learned a lot. Don't forget that, okay? Think back to just a few weeks back. This is only our 9th lecture. Think back to 4 weeks ago. You didn't know any of this, right? Now, I want to take a look at a slide that we examined. And I can remember the first time we went through it, I said, this slide's not going to make much sense because we haven't talked about these things yet. Well, I think it will make more sense now. Okay, look at the steps in analyzing and recording transactions. The first thing we do is analyze each transaction and event from source documents, right? And those source documents we talked about could be things like invoices, receipts, paycheck stubs, a receiving report, bank statements. If you go get an ATM withdrawal, you get a little receipt, don't you? Okay? And so we use those source documents to analyze each transactions. And then the next step at the top right is we record those relevant transactions in a journal, in the general journal. That's when we make a journal entry, right? Okay. Then, after we prepare the journal entry, we post those to the T accounts or to the ledger, right? And then what we do is we prepare and analyze the trial balance. So this is really, we just did these 3 steps in exercise 2.9 and 2.10, did we not? Okay? So that makes a little bit more sense now, doesn't it? Okay. Questions on that? Questions on that? Okay, good. One other thing I want to show you real quick is I at least want to kind of show you what, get my pointer going here. I want to show you in real life the T account looks a little different, okay, sometimes. in real life, sometimes the T account looks like this, and it's kind of similar. Matter of fact, I'll just draw the T portion of the account. Whoops. That T got a little wild, didn't it? Okay. Okay. There's the T account. Do you see it? The only thing that they do is they keep a running balance and they do it over to the side. Okay? You see? So I don't want you to ever be thrown in the real world if you see it listed a little differently. Everything's the same. They're just, okay, there's a debit for $30,000, so the balance is $30,000. Then there's a credit for $2,500. Instead of putting $27,500 down here, they just put it out here to the right. You with me? Okay? So that's sometimes how you will see it listed in the real world, per se. Cool? All right. Questions on that? Okay, good. Okay, I think what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and work on a few things here in class. Okay, I think it'd be good to do these. And I want to do exercise. I don't know if we'll have completely time to do this, but let's go ahead and try. I want to do exercise 2.11 and exercise 2.12 on page 79 and 80. Okay? Now, exercise 2.11, exercise 2.12, I want to change the instructions a little bit. Okay? They tell you to look at those transactions, identify which ones helped create revenue, and then make journal entries only for those transactions. Okay? I want you to go ahead and do journal entries for all of them, and then ask yourself which ones created revenues on 2.11. Okay? And then on 2.12, I want you to go ahead and do journal entries on all of them, and then ask yourself which ones helped create expenses. Does that make sense? So we're going to have some time here as the music rolls. You folks at home, as always, when we work on these in class, I want you to work on them as well. Okay? So let's work on exercise 2.11, exercise 2.12. All right. Okay, if you're not done at home, folks, just pause it and start us up when you are done. Let me go ahead and go to the screen over here, and let me show you the answers to problem 211. Okay? Take a look at those real quick. Check your work, and then we'll talk about them here for a minute. Can you guys see that in the back row?
So it's okay to abbreviate notes payable.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of times you'll see accounts receivable abbreviated A/R, notes payable abbreviated N/P, accounts payable abbreviated A/P, okay? Those are very common. I mean, I don't even realize when I'm doing it when I'm not. So, yes, good point. Kara?
Now, on the other one, we put fees earned instead of revenue. Are
Either
those,
one.
Okay, they're interchangeable.
Yeah, interchangeable.
Okay.
Good. So those are the answers to 211. And now they ask us which of these transactions created revenue, correct? Well, see, the reason I like to do all of them is if you do the journal entries, I think it's quite apparent which ones helped create revenue. In this case, the ones in yellow, because revenue is being credited, right? The other situations did not create revenue. Now, what this is trying to emphasize to us is that just because cash is coming into our business, that does not equate to revenue all the time. Okay? Now, the layperson sometimes think cash comes in, that must mean revenue. Not necessarily. Look back at that. In the first situation, cash came in, but it was an investment of capital by the owner. In situation D, we got cash of $91.50, but we hadn't yet performed the services or given the product, right? So that's unearned revenue, which is a liability. In situation E, cash came in, but it was in payments of a receivable that was set up. We don't recognize revenue. We already recognized it back then. And in the last situation, we simply got a loan of $150,000. That's not revenue, is it? Okay? So those are the journal entries for exercise 211, and the ones in yellow are the ones that helped create revenue. The other ones did not. Now let's look at any questions on 211? Let's look at 212. Okay? Those are the answers to exercise 212. Take a quick look there. Okay. Now they ask us on this one, which one of these created expenses, right? Which ones created expenses? Well, just look to see which ones have a debit to an expense account. And I think it's the ones in yellow, right? Situation B and situation D created expenses. But the others did not, did they? In the first situation, we were simply paying cash on a previously existing accounts payable, right? In situation C, we're purchasing a fixed asset, and that is not an expense. We'll talk about that more in Chapter 3, okay? And in the situation E, is withdrawals an expense account? Withdrawals is not an expense account. It does not go on the income statement. It goes on the statement of equity. So there are the 5 situations, or the 5 journal entries for exercise 212. But only situation B and situation D create expenses. Correct? And I think what they're trying to convey here is just because cash is going out does not necessarily mean an expense is being incurred. Okay? And we've kind of learned that as well. All right? Questions on that? Okay, well, let me give you your homework, and then I'll send you on your merry way. What I want you to do is, pay attention to this. I want you to do exercise 2.6, and then I want you to do problem 2.4a, okay? And we haven't done problems before, but there's quick studies in the books. There's exercises in the books. Now we're doing our first problem. And that's on page 84, okay? Problem 2-4A, do everything that they ask you to do. All right? Okay, remember only one more program, and then after that, it'll be test time. See you later, guys.